Before Amityville became a horror franchise, it was a crime scene. Before the books, before the movies, before the house became a destination for curiosity seekers, there was a family inside 112 Ocean Avenue. And on November 13, 1974, 6 people in that house were dead. That is the part of Amityville that does not depend on belief. No demons have to be proven for the DeFeo murders to matter. No haunting has to be accepted for the loss to be real. No legend should be allowed to bury the names, the evidence, or the human cost. This is the story of the DeFeo murders and the later Amityville story that grew around them. Ronald Joseph DeFeo Jr. was the oldest child in the DeFeo family. In November 1974, he was living with his parents and 4 siblings at 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York. The house would later become one of the most famous addresses in American horror culture. But in court records, it is not introduced as a haunted landmark. It is simply the family home where 6 murders occurred. In the early morning hours of November 13, 1974, DeFeo shot and killed his parents and 4 siblings as they lay in their beds. Court records identify the weapon as a .35 caliber Marlin lever-action rifle. After the killings, according to court records, DeFeo cleaned up, collected incriminating evidence, disposed of the rifle, and went to work. Later that day, he returned to Amityville and told others that his family was dead. That same public record says DeFeo first blamed the murders on a mob hitman. But investigators found serious problems with that account. On November 14, 1974, DeFeo gave an oral statement admitting he had killed his family and telling police where to find the rifle and other evidence. In 1975, DeFeo went to trial in Suffolk County. His defense included an insanity argument. The jury rejected that defense. In November 1975, he was found guilty of 6 counts of second-degree murder. In December 1975, he was sentenced to 6 consecutive terms of 25 years to life. His conviction was affirmed on appeal in 1978. That should have been the center of the Amityville story. 6 lives taken, 1 surviving son convicted, a motive still not firmly established. But Amityville did not stay only in the courtroom. A year after the murders, George and Kathleen Lutz moved into the Ocean Avenue house with their family. They would later report that they experienced frightening paranormal events there. Those claims became the basis for Jay Anson's 1977 book, The Amityville Horror, and then the 1979 film that helped turn the address into a cultural phenomenon. Here is where we have to slow down. The DeFeo murders are documented by criminal proceedings. The haunting claims are reported claims. Those are not the same thing. According to the Lutz family's account, disturbing events happened after they moved in. Later tellings include claims of strange noises, odors, cold spots, physical disturbances, and other alleged phenomena. Those details became famous because they are vivid. They are also disputed. There is no court finding that proved the house was haunted. There is no scientific record that established a supernatural cause. There is no historical consensus that the Lutz account happened as described. And there is another complication. William Weber, DeFeo's former defense attorney, later reportedly claimed that the haunting story was fabricated, or at least shaped, with commercial motives. According to reports, Weber said the story was developed with the Lutzes. The Lutzes disputed accusations that their experience was a hoax. The title Amityville Horror has a strange effect on this case. It pulls the public imagination away from the victims and toward the house, the windows, the address, the supposed voices, the myths about what remained inside. But houses do not suffer the way people do. The DeFeo family did. Court records show that DeFeo changed his story over time. At one point, he claimed a mob hitman was responsible. At trial, he testified that he killed his family, but framed it through his defense. Later, he made additional claims, including allegations involving his sister Dawn. Those later claims were not accepted by the courts as a basis to overturn his conviction. In a later post-conviction proceeding, a judge found portions of DeFeo's testimony false and fabricated. That matters because Amityville has always been vulnerable to revision. The story changes depending on who is telling it. For horror fans, it is a haunted house. For skeptics, it is a media hoax. For true crime investigators, it is a family murder case distorted by folklore. For the surviving relatives and community, it is something more private and painful than any franchise can contain. And that is why an exposed version of Amityville should not only ask whether the haunting was real, it should ask what the haunting did to the crime. Because once the supernatural story took over, the DeFeo murders became a prologue. The victims became the backstory to a house. The convicted killer became part of horror mythology. and the address became more famous than the people who died there. That is not unusual in true crime. A place becomes iconic. A phrase becomes marketable. A tragedy becomes entertainment. But Amityville is one of the clearest examples of how quickly that can happen. A family was killed in 1974. A man was convicted in 1975. A haunting story was published in 1977. A film followed in 1979. And for decades afterward, the public conversation kept circling back to the question: was the house haunted? Maybe the more important question is, why was the murder not enough? Ronald DeFeo Jr. died in custody in 2021. He never provided a stable, proven motive that resolved the case in a satisfying way. His changing explanations left room for speculation. The later haunting claims filled that room with something larger, stranger, and easier to sell. But the documented ending is not supernatural. It is legal and unresolved in a different way. DeFeo was convicted. He was imprisoned. He died in custody. The case did not end with a ghost being explained. It ended with a criminal conviction, a disputed legacy, and a house that became a symbol of the uneasy border between true crime and horror entertainment.